And we're, okay, 1 second. Okay, it says we're live, ma'am. All right, I want to thank everyone for tuning in for a special Off the Record this Sunday. I have a wonderful guest, someone who's very dear to myself, my family, and many young people who went to Muhammad University of Islam and later went on to do many things. We want to thank you, Sister Shelby, for taking time out of your busy schedule for coming on today, ma'am.
And thank you for asking me. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sister Shelby, we have a lot of questions from people who text me and former students of MUI and people from different cities as well. But the first question that a lot of people wanted to know is, how did you get into the education field?
I got into the education field because I decided at an early age that I wanted to be a teacher.
Mm.
And when I went to high school, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to study. And my major subject was mathematics.
Mm.
And so that's what I did. When I went to college, that was my major. But in my end of my sophomore year, I was at Russ College in Holly Springs, Mississippi, of course, a Black college.
Yes, ma'am.
We lost a professor. We lost a math professor, and we were told that we would have to attend school another semester into the next year. And so I made a decision to change my major. I flipped my major from math to English, so I minored in math. So those two subjects were the subjects that I taught in the teaching career, math and English.
Yes, ma'am. Excellent. Since you brought up mathematics, what seems to be something that I've observed, which is that women seem to grab a hold to mathematics sometimes, or just school in general, but especially mathematics and science, quicker than some of the men. Has that been something that you've observed in your years of education?
Yes, it is something that I've observed, but I think if a child is given that same information at a younger age, they overcome it.
Yes.
They might not grasp it, some of them, not all of them, not to label, but sometimes, because boys want to play longer than girls. They like that's I saw that even at the university, even in the preschool. They want to play a little longer. You know, you got toys, you got things to do. And so I think sometimes that's kind of a part of it. But I think you coming out of the university, both my sons majored in math when they went to college. Raymond, and so did Raymond. Wasn't a math major, but he was an engineering major, which means you got a lot of math.
Absolutely. Okay, wonderful. And please extend to them the greetings as well. Now, earlier we were speaking and you said you come from a family of 12.
A family of 12 on a farm in Holly Springs. We say the suburb of Holly Springs was a little town called Red Banks, Mississippi. So Holly Springs was always our address, and Russ College was in Holly Springs, which was really about maybe 12 miles away. But we grew up on a farm. My father was a farmer. We grew everything that you can imagine. And so the farm is still there, and we go back, 2 or 3 times a year. I have a brother that's still there on the farm, still in the family house. He moved back into the family house, and he's one month older than the minister.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Excellent. How did you get to become the directress of Muhammad University?
Well, if you heard of Alfred Skip Robinson, who became Abdul Aziz Muhammad?
Yes, ma'am.
He recruited Sister Van and I. One of my sisters was already a teacher in Mississippi in Holly Springs. But after the nation, after the minister started the rebuild, after he came into the nation, he just always told us the minister is going to open the school and he's going to need good teachers. He always put that word in there. He's going to need good teachers. And Sister Bain and I were in the Chicago public school system at the time. So when we got the property back on Stony Island, the headquarters, well, we didn't know at the time that we had to go through this whole refurbishing business, right? So at the end of the school year, 86, we resigned. We left the Board of Education. But it was, as you know, it was only school opened in 1989. And so I worked at the final call. And my sister went to the county back to teaching. And once I got the assignment in 88 to become the director, that's where the groundwork began. And so we started with the minister's instructions. We started with a daycare center. And the daycare center was opened on May the 16th, 1989. You were a young child at that time, but the minister had made a public announcement that, that in those days when the minister spoke to everybody, he spoke by satellite, right? So he did a Mother's Day satellite broadcast in 1989. And he said, "Sister, I'm going to make the announcement on the broadcast. And I want the daycare center to open the next day." Well, brother, that's an interesting story that goes with that. We had started the licensing process. We were in the licensing process, but the licensing was not complete because there were like 6 agencies that had to come out, whether it was plumbing and whether it was heating and ventilation and all these things, Department of Health, they all had to come out. So, but the minister said, open the school on the 16th, right? I knew we weren't finished. We had about 3 more inspections to go. So apparently one of the inspectors who came that week that we opened, they reported me. So I got charged with operating a daycare center without a license. I had to go to court. They closed the daycare center. Of course, we just took the children over to the mosque each day. We went into school. And so I had to go get sworn in when I went to court. Sister Ava was my attorney. And we were fined, but we didn't let that stop us. And so we kept going. And so the school, the daycare center did get its license, maybe about a month after that. And the rest is history. And then I will say that same year, we did a summer school for the regular grades. We didn't do high school. We did summer school for the elementary children. And what we were trying to do, we were trying to get the kinks out. So we have a summer school. We know where we are. We know what kind of supplies we need. And at the same time, we were enrolling students. So it was a good choice to make that decision to have a summer school before we officially opened the school in September.
Excellent. Okay, wonderful. Well, Sis Shelby, these are people on Facebook. Yes, Brother Henry's son went to Rest College. Brother Ernest says, "I love the Sister Shelby. You are one of the best Muslims that I've ever come across. May Allah continue to keep you."
Brother Ernest, tell him I read his Facebook. Tell him I'm not a poster too much, but I read.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Brother Ernest, she reads your Facebook. My sisters, Naima Mimi, say assalamu alaikum. Drew, walaikum salam. And Brother Michael Muhammad, walaikum salam as well. Okay, Sister Shelby, what was one of the difficulties you had when you were running Muhammad University?
After the school opened?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, the first one, naturally, staffing is always an issue. So I did a lot of subbing. And I did a lot of staff training. So sometimes I spent quite a bit of time in the classroom. I wasn't always in my office. Sometimes I might be in the lunchroom if necessary. So, but the thing that I would say that kept us going, the challenging was having a material and supplies, sufficient material supplies. So we struggled, I would say the first year, about the midway of the first year, that's when we were able to start pulling in resources, because the school, as you know, was a year round. It closed in August and it opened back up in September. But most of the time, at the end of the school year, most parents were through paying tuition maybe in June. So that posed a problem. That means that I had to do some serious planning, pulling in certain staff members who were willing. We had the understanding that we had to do some serious fundraising. So even when we were setting aside the tuition, you don't want to touch that because you got to pay your staff, right? And we did get some assistance at first later from the final call. But we knew in order for us to have the things that we needed in the classroom and whatever, that we had to raise the money to do it. And as time went, we used to do, of course, we did dinners on a Sunday. It was the teachers who did that. We had 5 coordinators. One of those Sundays was my Sunday. So I didn't ask my staff to do anything that I didn't do. And that is how we were able to be, to move forward as much as we were able to do, because we knew we had to do a lot of serious fundraising.
Yes, ma'am. Now, when you said your teachers, were there any teachers that stayed with you longer? Like who, like in the beginning, what teachers were with you?
Oh, sure. But they stayed for a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
I would start with my sister who came with me. Then Sister Mary. Sister Mary came the second year that we opened. She wasn't there the first year. But Brother Shaid, I hired Brother Shaid over the telephone. Brother Shaid had just finished college. He had his degree in math. Good, that's what I'm looking for. So I hadn't seen Brother Shaid until he arrived in Chicago. But we were able to, pick up staff. Brother Robert, Dr. Robert, who came to us, we knew he was in science, but he was, at the time, he was a social worker. No, he was not a major, he was a social worker. That was by trade. And so the interesting part that happened with Brother Shaid, Dr. Robert, Brother Rufai, who the minister selected him to come and teach the Arabic. He had just come in from Ghana, I guess about the year before we opened. And so some of the teachers who were really not quite up to par, because being a certified teacher, I had to know, I wanted teachers who were. So Brother Shaid was a math major, but if you go to college and just major in math and don't pick up the education component, they expect you can take your math skills and go to industry or someplace. So he had not had any methods courses or whatever. So Brother Shaid, Brother Dr. Robert, and Brother Rufai I sent them to Chicago State, and they took some methods of teaching classes. They would go in the evening after school. And so those are some of the things that we had to put in place when we opened. So if I saw where a teacher had needed some help that I couldn't provide, and then I didn't have time to provide, so that's why we made that decision. And I did the same thing with the preschool. There were some teachers who were working in the preschool whose credentials were not what was the state required, so they took some classes. So they were excused to go take up some classes, come back to work sometimes. And so a lot of that went on in the early years.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Excellent. What were some of your fond memories that you had of MUI?
My book will be out next year.
Okay.
I'm only joking.
Okay.
There were so many. But I remember one time when we were approaching the first high school graduation, And I remember asking the minister, because he was doing the Stop the Killing tour at the time. And I'd ask the minister, will you be able to come to the graduation? He said, sister, he said, if I die before the graduation ceremony, I want them to roll my casket at the end. He said, so nothing is, in other words, nothing was going to keep him from being at the first graduation. In fact, he spoke at the first graduation. Those were some memorable moments. And some, brother, there were many. We did the education banquet. The first one we did after the first year. And then the minister did the violin concert. That was a fundraiser for the school. So, but I would say the high point of the school came in 1992, and that was the first high school graduation, and we had the number of students who came out of there that very first year. It wasn't it was one of the largest classes that we graduated, but that's kind of put us on the map, so to speak. And but there were a lot of memorable moments that we had. It would be, I would be talking the rest of the day if I gave you all, but there are many.
Yes, ma'am.
But we have a good spirit. The spirit of cooperation was there. Initially, brother, I want to say this. Initially, the minister told me to only enroll children of believers. And then I would say by July of that year or sooner, he said, sister, I'm going to change that. He said, because the community helped us to get the property back. So we will admit students from the community. He said, but screen them very well. And so that's what we did. So the university has always had children whose parents may not have been in the nation, but for a long period of time, the school was really the best recruiter because most of the parents who came who were not registered ended up registering. So that was a good recruiting tool as well.
Excellent.
For the nation. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Could you explain to us the value that the minister puts on education, how he sees it, how important it is to the nation and the future of the nation?
Of course, yes, brother. Well, the minister said that when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was setting up mosques around the country in the early days, they set the mosque up and then they set up a school. So that was always the tradition. Once you got a mosque, then later, once, no matter how low you started, even if you started with a Saturday school, that there has to be something where you're reaching the children. So I think is probably my understanding that happens probably throughout the country. I was really impressed one time I went to visit MUI. I went to Memphis, near my hometown, but the sister, they had not opened the school yet, but she had the Saturday school, right? And so the children at the Saturday school had uniforms. they had uniforms. So the sisters had MGT on a Saturday. So the little sisters came to school on Saturday, the brothers on Sunday, but they were all in uniform. And it was years before, they had a full-fledged university. And there are interesting stories around the country that are very inspiring. One of the things that stood out as I'm speaking to you, when we first opened, in truth, the first university to reopen under the minister really wasn't Chicago, it was Los Angeles. There was a couple who reopened the university in Los Angeles. They drove 200 miles each day back and forth for 2 years. It was just that kind of spirit and dedication. Yeah.
Wonderful. What advice would you give to people who are homeschooling their children or who are in private education?
Okay, clarify private education.
Who may have like a charter school or may be doing
Oh,
it
I
at
see.
university. Yes, sir.
The
I mean,
only thing that the one thing that I say to parents, any parent who is considering or who is doing homeschooling, see, homeschooling says that there's a school in your home, right? It doesn't mean that the children are here and you don't have the proper structure. You don't have the is it set up so they can transition from one grade to the next. I asked that question of the minister, and I'm gonna give you his response. And he said, "Sister," he said, "you tell those parents if they are not qualified to teach their children, then they may as well send them to school and teach them the truth when they come home." So it doesn't mean, naturally, if you're homeschooling a child and maybe you getting that child through 5th grade or 7th, 8th grade, but you might not be prepared to do high school. You see, so before any parent decides that they want to homeschool, that's what I would check on. What should I teach? What should the curriculum look like? And do I have the time? Am I prepared to do it? Because you don't want the children just home and they hit the books a little bit unsupervised. So the supervision has to be there.
yes, ma'am. And when you earlier you said that MUI went year round, how did that affect your personal life or like having downtime if you were teaching year round?
Well, when we said that it was year round, it didn't mean that we didn't. We initially closed in August. Like the second week of August, we would be closed, and we would open back in September. So, but we had spring break, you know, we had the break for Savior's Day. So we really were not so tied in that there was no structure. And the other thing too, the minister said to me that, "Sister, you know, there are holidays that we don't observe." He said, "But they are family days."
Mm.
So naturally, school is not open on Thanksgiving. It's not open on Christmas. It's not that we are going through all the foolishness, but most people are with their families and they have time to be with their families. So yeah, we've always had. I'm not sure now. The schedule may have changed, but we used to have staff development doing at least on a Tuesday on a monthly basis. And so I'm not sure, but I think they still do that. So there are breaks. So it's not like you know. And I think this year the minister went back to the half day.
Mm.
Some of the children on the property, I think they use the mosque, on the one side of the masala, that the children whose parents can't not make that pickup at 12 o'clock. So some of those children are staying. So he's trying to go back to the old structure.
Excellent. So when I spoke with you about 2 weeks ago, you informed me that you were going back to school to get your doctorate. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes, ma'am. And why are you doing that?
Good question. Brother, some years ago, I went to some countries that the minister had a list of countries he wanted me to visit. In fact, Mother Tarnetta and I made these trips. And then I got sent back to the university. So everything stopped. Mm-hmm. And he even told me where he wanted me to go to do my studies. And after I went back, it was just too much to try to do the administration at the school and taking the classes. So I stopped. But I was instructed to last August at a meeting with the minister that I should go back and finish. And you know, you don't say no. Minister gives you instruction. So that's what I did. And he said, I would insist it'll be good for your memory. So I couldn't argue with that. So I'm back.
Yes, ma'am. Excellent. Are there any specific instructions that the minister gave you during your time at Muhammad University that helped you stay motivated, that helped you stay persistent all of those years?
Well, I'll say that, sure, the minister always gave instructions. And he, even when he came, sometimes he was able to come to, his schedule would allow him to come and address the staff. So he did address the staff sometimes. And if it's something he didn't see, that he saw that he didn't like, he let us know. So one time he came to the school to visit, and we were doing what you called at the end of a school year. It's not staff development, but the staff come in this day before the children come back to get their report cards. So they're taking down things from the wall, you're cleaning up the room, you're putting things away. And so the sisters were, dressed like they were clean up. Well, he didn't know at the time that it was, and he was very upset. And he was upset with the sisters. And then after he found out, he called me back and he said, "Oh, sister, I didn't know that these sisters came prepared to work in their rooms to clean up and do things." And he said, so he asked me to give them an apology. And I did that. It accepted it. And, but it just shows you that when he decides to pop in, you don't ever know. I wasn't in my office at the time. I think I was down the hall. And, but so if something needed to be corrected, then it was corrected. And so you take it and say, "Yes, sir, brother minister," and you move on. And so there were times like that, but the guidance, I would say the first year, yes, more than say the second year, whatever. But the first year, there was more hands-on.
Excellent. Yes, ma'am. On Facebook, Sister Sean says, "Tell Sister that I always admire her as a director of MUI. Much continued success." Brother Robert Muhammad says, "Walaikum salam." Brother Mark Diesel says, "Sister Shelby, always a classy administrator in MGT." Sister Desiree says, "Assalamu alaikum, thank you." Sister Branda, who was a teacher at MUI, says, "Totally grateful for Sister Shelby. I was blessed with her support and encouraging teacher under her." Sister Shalima says, "All praise due to Allah." Khalid Shakur says, "My principal." And Brother Mark Diesel always says, "Always no nonsense."
Oh,
excellent. Yes. Okay, yes, ma'am. I wanted to ask you about Brother Aziz in Mississippi, and how was that in your early days in Mississippi as well?
And you mean growing up with him? Or
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, well, he was an energetic person. As I said, we were on a farm. Brother Aziz liked to raise horses. Mm. He was always doing things so he made I don't think I've ever shared this with him, but Brother Aziz made this, it looked like a sled, but he made it, but you hook it to a horse, right? So he had the horse to pull the sled, and Sister Van and I were riding on this sled, but Aziz is on the horse, and we're going fast. And my mother was so upset. She was really upset with us because she thought we could have gotten hurt. But so that's how he would like to do things, whether it was swimming across the lake. I rode across the lake on horseback. He would rode this horse across the lake, and I'm on the horseback with him. So there's one thing about different between being in the city and being in the country. You find things to do, find things to do. So you don't always want to go fishing. Yeah, that was fine, but we also had to work in the fields as well. But Brother Aziz always made things fun. And but as he grew, as the years changed, he changed and he became a civil rights leader in Mississippi. And the minister, when the minister recruited him, he told him, said, brother, you're not gonna get anywhere fighting these white folk. Why don't you come on and join up with me? And so that is, and he was introduced to the minister by Lou Myers. Attorney Myers, you know, I'll be pleased with him, who passed away, you know, recently. And that is how he let it go, and he came into the nation, and then he recruited my sister in Mississippi, who was also teaching there at the high school, and Sister Van and I. And that is how it all started. Yes.
Excellent. Praise be to the Lord. Yes, ma'am. And so that's how you joined the nation, through your brother?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, excellent. What advice would you give to future mothers?
Keep going.
Yes, ma'am. Just on in life.
Advice, period.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Well, the thing that I would say for any mother who's raising a child nowadays, it has always been the nowadays, right? But in this, I would say in this day and time, because there are so many things that are out there now that gets children's attention that may not have happened years ago. And so you just really have to be the mother, the ruler from an early age. Don't wait until the child is 7 or 8 and not, no, that has to start at 2. And just, you know, when you gradually, as a child gets older, you know, you apply things that are a little stronger, but being in that child's life, being the main person in that child's life, and knowing what the child is being exposed to. That's the main thing. I'm gonna say this, and my granddaughter would say, I said to her when she had her first child, her daughter, I said, be careful with the music that you play around her. Why, if you got her in the car with you, turn the radio off or put something on that you don't, that she really doesn't need to hear. Yeah, you know, she talks about it now. Don't go there with children. Don't take little children to movies to see things that they shouldn't see. You go to the theaters, what do you see? Parents that with small children. No. Well, if it's a little child movie, fine. Have a babysitter, and wait until it comes out. It's not going to take that long, right? So, but that's the thing. You have to monitor even children who at home see too many things on TV that they shouldn't see. No. So I'm a little old-fashioned when it comes to that. You need to look at that TV guide or whatever. There are things that children are looking at that are not appropriate. No. Turn off the TV if you have to, but find a time that's separate from the time that the children are up or around you. Is too much exposure. I can't stress that enough. I'm a great grandmother, so of 4. So I know, you know, I have to do the same thing.
Yes, ma'am. And okay, when you were speaking of your children, you said both of them went to college and got an education. And how did you stress that in your own household? And how can other mothers stress education in their household as well? Well,
I'm going to back up a little bit. The children that came through the university and went off to college, that's fine. My 2 oldest children, my oldest daughter passed away in 2011. My oldest son, he didn't do anything in college. No, he got in with the wrong group. So he was fine in high school, but when he went off to college, nope. So, but he was able to develop his own skills. So he came from Phoenix, I say in 2007, and remodeled my whole house. So, but this is something that he learned. He was always good at picking up things, learning to do things. So So he's fine. He just is not around. So most people think, oh, Raymond, that's Raymond. But yeah, no, Raymond is he is my oldest son that came to the nation with me. And my brother Latif and my granddaughter, whom I raised, they all came out of the university. Yes. And they were on college. Yes.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. What advice do you give? Would you want to give? How would you want your legacy to be remembered?
How would I want my legacy? Well, brother, I would say, as a Muslim follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Minister Min Farrakhan, when I came to if I decide I'm coming into something, or if this is something what I want to do and this is what I believe, then that's the path I'm on. So nothing could pull me from that path. And so now I'm, whatever I can do to assist, I will do. That's going forward. And that was always my goal when I came in. And I always remember what my brother said to me, because I always think that it was something, very divine about this comment that he made when Sister Van and I accepted, and I called him and let him know, okay, we accepted today. And he says, praise be to Allah. He said, now I'm satisfied. He said, if I don't get anybody else from the family in the nation, as long as I got you and Sister Van, I'm satisfied. So I always remember that. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, that's powerful and excellent. And ma'am, Allah be pleased with your brother. Sister Bronda says, what advice do you give to Muslim parents whose children don't attend MUI?
Same advice. It doesn't matter if they're not at the MUI, but if you're a Muslim, then you are living the life of a Muslim, and your diet, the home life should not be any different. All of my great-grandchildren are not at the university because, number one, I had one there last year because she couldn't work the schedule. But the students in the family, the guidance that they have, if a child is not in the university and you are a Muslim, that child is being raised as a Muslim. So even if you, as the minister said, you teach them the truth when they come home, sure. But now I do know that sometimes later this year, I'm going to address an issue at one of my grandson's school. He's in a gifted program, but my little 4th grade child came home the other day, and his mother, they had been teaching about the Holocaust. So Chicago is doing that now, but they're not putting that emphasis on Black history. So I will be making a visit. Yes.
Okay, excellent. Yes, ma'am. And thank you, Sister Bronda, for the question. Well, Sister Shelby, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to address this with us. We're going to put this on YouTube. I want to thank everyone for watching. My parents told me to make sure that they thank you publicly. All of my siblings and I who went to Muhammad University of Islam, we want to thank you. And I want to personally thank you for never beating me. That means a lot to me.
Oh no, you weren't that you weren't that bad. Look, maybe you as you got older, and probably that was during the time that I was not there.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. But I thank you, and we send you our love, and please send your love to our love to your family. Thank you, Sister Van, and thank you all your family.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Hold on one second, Sister Shelby. Just one more question. Do you have time for one more question?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Sister Desiree says, sister, I recently took my child out of a public charter school that has much potential but doesn't have stabilized teachers. And my son struggles at times because he can be lazy, but when he's focused, he's focused. We are currently utilizing a self-paced online curriculum, and it's been 2.5, I don't know what she's saying. I want to say Montes? I don't know. I've been given an English grammar book written in the 70s, and it's amazing, yet I like to add more to his curriculum. At what point and how much more should I add to his curriculum from the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
as much as he can take.
Mm.
But the question that I understand, but what a question is, she's not sure that she's giving him all that he needs. Then, but she can also, you can find everything nowadays online. But if you're looking for the skills that he should be, at this grade level, what skills should he be mastering, like say for in math in particular, or in reading comprehension? You can. I have to pull that. I don't have something like that in front of me. But usually when someone asks me questions like that, I always go to Sister Van. Sister Van is the master reading teacher. And I was always up in high school. So, but the one thing that I would say to a parent, you can always supplement what the school does. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And we also want to make sure that the sponsor of this podcast is Cheesecake Heaven, right there in Chicago, by Sister Aisha, a former student at Muhammad University of Islam, who now has her own business. So we thank you for that, Sister Aisha, as well. Thank you, Sister Shelby. May Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, brother.